Hello, everybody, and welcome to Navigating CX. Today, I am delighted to be joined by another special guest. So this man is a global thought leader in customer centricity. He is setting the gold standard through the Customer Institute and through his own practice, Experience 5. And he's a practitioner with loads of experience, years and years of experience as global head of CX, EX, and support in the world's fourth largest software company. So please welcome Stefan Osthaus.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you, Kim.
Fabulous. So, Stefan, it's an absolute delight to have you here. You have a couple of different hats over your CX journey. So I thought what we do is kind of start by giving viewers just a bit of a look at who Stefan Osthaus is and how you came to be in customer experience, and just start from there and see where that goes.
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to. Well, I'm based in Germany, and I have almost always been. And in my previous life, as you mentioned, I worked for the fourth largest software company in the world, belonging to their leadership team in the Silicon Valley, commuting back and forth on a weekly basis. And I was this chief marketing officer. And in that role, we then, as a leadership team, decided we need a head of a customer guru, somebody who represents customers. And this is when we created the role of the head of customer experience. And after some searching, finally, all eyes turned my way, and folks said, you know what, you've been designing this role, you've been most enthusiastic about it. Why don't you make this your next role here? And I did. And after it's been very successful, the CEO asked myself if I could also take on employee experience. And I loved that she was of the same opinion that I am, that employee experience and customer experience are nothing but two sides of the same coin. And then later on, I took on customer support and tech support as well, owning the customer-facing most important touch point, and that was the perfect storm. So we raised Net Promoter Score by 30 points or more. We had employee engagement rise to a point where our attrition went down to 1/3 of what it has been before. And basically, this is when I had the opportunity to learn how these things work, how you operationalize them, how you continue to be pragmatic about them, because you can become as theoretic and ivory towerish about this as you want, but then you lose contact with the organization you want to improve. So I think that's one of my biggest characteristics. If you ask people, tell me one thing about Stefan, they will probably say he has always been pragmatic about how to get stuff done. And then after that time, I felt it's now a time to multiply what you can do by not working for one company only, but trying to help many organizations. And my focus here is large multinational organizations. I work with the largest IT network provider and communication provider in the world. I work with pharmaceutical organizations, with government organizations. And I was just so lucky to understand how the nuances are in B2B, B2C, and the public sector. And it's actually amazing to see how the public sector in some parts of the world is now not only catching up, but in those regions actually leading the pack on customer, or in that case, citizen focus.
Absolutely. I think I love what you said there about operationalizing. And, you know, we come from similar backgrounds in terms of, I'm a marketer as well. And my biggest thing was always, how do you operationalize all of this beautiful looking programs and stuff we talk about? And I love that you've sort of made that a bit about the Stefan brand, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about, you work for across a number of different sectors. So overall, what do you think of the state of customer experience at the moment?
Great question. It's It's an innovation that is circling the planet like a wind stream, not equally, not always as strong, and sometimes manifesting itself in rain, clouds, or sunshine. What I mean is customer experience allegedly has started in the US and has come through different names to a point where it's called customer centricity, customer experience. I prefer customer centricity because it is the philosophy behind creating a great customer experience. And then it jumped across the ocean to Western Europe. The UK usually doing a wonderful job in being equally far and equally advanced as the US, if not even further. The Germans being the typical, let's do this thoroughly and design processes that would meet an ISO certification before we roll them out, which always slows us down. But then,
yeah.
And now all of a sudden you see Asia totally having woken up to the fact and implementing things and having world-class conferences, world-class organizations helping to set up the whole practice and helping professionals to find their role there. But I think the fact that has impressed me most is how the Gulf Council countries in the Middle East have gotten a prerogative from their leaders, very often their royal leaders, that they want to now become the most citizen-centric societies, that they want to improve customer experience in public institutions and public service providers. And the amount of great intent that we see there is mind-boggling. Obviously, we have some work to do to catch up on the capability side to make sure they hit the ground running and we can actually deliver the right citizen experience that meets up with the maturity of those public service providers. But that shows us that the principle will never go away. It quite rightfully has turned into part of the DNA of all organizations, B2B, B2C, and public sector. And now we play the regional nuances, and that's what makes our lives as global players so interesting, right?
Oh, absolutely. What fascinates me is that this started out as customer experience, and then we've got employee experience, and now we're talking about patient experience and citizen experience. Why do you think it's important to keep sort of changing the nuance of that word? You know, why is customer not relevant as a word to use when you're talking about an overall, you know, government sector work?
You brought up a great example with patient experience. Let's take this to describe why nuances are important. I am not an esoteric customer centricity guy who thinks that the happiness of customers and the hugging of trees and the dancing your name thing is an integral part of a customer experience strategy. I believe that in the commercial environment, customer centricity is a strategic choice that will help you to be commercially more successful and ethically more aligned with what your employees want to get out of their careers. That is not exactly the same in patient experience. In patient experience, we look at how we make the journey from suffering to suffering less for a patient more satisfying for everyone who contributes to this value contribution and benefits from it. Here, the commercial factor is always a side thought that follows you through the whole process, but the ultimate prerogative and objective there is slightly different. I would never go into a patient experience provider organization and say, okay, let's make this place more profitable. We would always go in there and say, let's understand where your patients come from and let's help them to improve from there in the best way. Obviously with commercial limitations, but the initial drive is different. The same is true for governments. They have different KPIs they look at. They don't look at their commercial success to maximize tax income from customers. They look at attracting new citizens, immigration, investment on site, and other things. So these are the nuances But back to the pragmatic, Stefan, the principles are the same. Thank God.
Yeah. So fascinating. I was talking to someone a couple of months ago who has quite significant experience in the airline industry. So she talks about passenger experience. And one of the things we were talking about is that in working for airlines or airline providers, there's such a complex value chain that leads, that provides a passenger experience. I think organizations and brands, I guess, feel like they can manage it themselves, the experience with the customer. But, patient experience, and I particularly think with government organizations, you've got so many different stakeholders that have to be bought in to this, whatever this idea of the experience is. My sense is that it's a far more sort of complicated stakeholder discussion. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. One of my current clients actually beat me to a very pragmatic approach to that, and I love it. We were always sitting there working in the strategy teams and with the management team, speaking about customer experience, employee experience. And first we had to define who the customer was. So at some point, let's call them Acme Corporation, beginning with an A. At some point, they stopped speaking about CX and EX and everything, and they just called the whole thing AX. They said, we want to optimize the experience the customers of Acme Corporation and the employees and the other stakeholders have with us. This is going to go out to everyone we deal with. And I was like, I love that. That is actually very straightforward.
Yeah. And so it just feels so logical, doesn't it? Where, as single business people, let alone big businesses, we're always talking about different audiences and different stakeholders and all of that sort of thing. And we can become so fragmented in what we're trying to deliver. And there's a real simplicity in that approach. What do you think could be the flip side of that? How could that not perhaps manifest in the outcome that perhaps would be great?
Wonderful. This is the golden line to walk, Kim. So if you become too pragmatic or flippant and say, oh yeah, let's just improve and keep improving and everything's going to be okay, then you will embark with your little boat into the mangrove forest without knowing where you want to go and what to expect.
Yep.
But everyone will say, that's pretty straightforward. I can row. Let's go. If you become too theoretical and optimize your CX framework to the nth degree so it captures every nuance of change management and every strategic option and every capability you need to create, so it is a 46 element framework, and then embark onto the journey to teach everyone in the organization about that framework, then people will fall asleep and hate you quite rightfully. So now you need to find the middle ground. You need to have a strong theoretical, structural, and executable approach on how to improve the customer centricity of an organization. At the same time, you need to be very, very careful to only communicate what's needed. Keep your frameworks to yourself. You might want to teach your CX team, but if you talk to the leader of an organization about how beneficial it is to become customer-centric, leave the slide with the framework at home.
Yeah, it's great advice. We think about, we have to educate everybody. I mean, about marketing, about customer experience. We get excited about it. No, if you only understood all about this, and actually most people don't care. They're just looking for the outcome. They're just looking for the result.
It might be the fear of coming across as not educated or not as scientific as other consulting practices in the world, but I think it's time we can leave that behind us. CX is an appreciated and acknowledged practice in the world. We don't need to show every tool there is in the workshop to the car client so that he believes we can fix his car. It's enough if we understand the problem, tell him how we're going to go about it, make him part of the solution where needed. like shift gears if needed. Don't drive your car only in first gear, only use the other gears, but only when needed. For the other areas, he doesn't need to understand how the power supply of the car works and where we're going to get the drive and the brake it and everything else from.
Yeah, a great analogy. You mentioned just before the car analogy, actually, the focus, wrong word, or the wider approach on the whole organization and how you're delivering a customer-centric business and a customer-centric organization. Now, you have a second role. So you have your own consulting practice, Experience 5, but you are also involved in leading the Customer Institute, which has a particular focus on...
Let me move to this side so that the Experience 5 sign moves away.
Okay.
You can see the customer experience sign.
Lovely.
It's blurry. You can't read it, so don't worry too much about it.
It's all right. It's all right. Yeah. So you have another, I guess, a string to the bow about thinking about how you build customer-centric organizations. And one of the criticisms I've heard quite a lot as I've sort of joined in the customer experience community more formally has been this bigger issue of how do you make an organization customer centric because of all the silos and all of that sort of thing. So perhaps could you tell us why you think that there was an opening for you about starting something around organizational customer centricity and the Customer Institute?
Yes. That was about 2 years ago when Experience 5 as a consultancy was about 5 years old. And I know people in the practice who are just the most amazing thought leaders and best experienced experts in improving customer centricity for organizations. But then I started to see more and more as the demand for customer experience consultancy grew, the one book experts who had read the CX for Dummies and put on a sign outside of their office, customer experience consultancy, as a category, not as a name. If there's anyone out there called that, then I'm not speaking about you. And I saw an increasing amount of frustration with existing clients who had fallen for such so-called experts and came back and said, we wasted a whole year, it didn't get anywhere. Or even worse, they followed wrong advice and introduced, let's say, a customer voice of the customer program without having built the customer journeys and understanding what they're going to use it for, and wasted a lot of money. So I felt that there needs to be something to differentiate the real experts from the labeled experts. And the Customer Institute was founded very soon thereafter, after I compared notes with some of the real experts in the field. And we all said, that's actually a great idea. Is there a body that could identify best practice where it exists? And there was not one. And this is why we founded the Customer Institute, which by now has an amazing board of directors from experts around the globe. We're about 35 directors now, ranging from practitioners who are in head of customer experience roles, consultants, members of the academic world, professors from around the globe, solution providers, and everyone is on that team pro bono, with the passion about finding best practice, learning from it, identifying it, making it visible to the world. And as such, we certify tools, methods, approaches to customer centricity. Early this year, we will introduce a new service of certifying organizations where we provide consultants around the globe with the opportunity to use our methodology of assessing an organization and then quantifiably and qualifiably saying, this is what we found, and here's what we recommend you do. And you've actually already achieved a level that earns you Customer Institute certification. Go show that to your customers. Show how customer-centric you are. So I'm grateful for the past 2 years. This has been built completely on the enthusiasm of experts from the industry. It has brought an amazing team together, and it is delivering like clockwork to make sure that best practices and organizations who apply them are visible and can show off what they have achieved.
I love that. And I think what you describe also is bringing some discipline to the realm of customer experience and customer centricity, saying that there are some ways we can evaluate where we are and what the right things are to do to get us where we want to go. And I think that's so important. And the fact you talked about, you have a board of, did you say 35 directors? They're all pro bono. So there was clearly a gap, because we're all busy people and we don't just sort of turn up for anything, do we? So I think that's a great testament.
It is, and we could have many more directors already. We're running a waiting list because we gave ourselves a rule that we want to have a healthy mix of practitioners, solution providers, academics, and consultants. We don't want to be the Airbnb of CX consultants.
Yeah.
And this is why we have much more interest to become a director at the Customer Institute and contribute to this movement, as we could almost call it. And we're actually accepting directors. So those who are on the team right now really are the creme de la creme of what's out there in expertise. Brilliant.
That's fantastic. So you're 2 years in and you're really starting to build, I guess, the brand of Customer Institute. How do you balance the desire for organizations perhaps to earn a badge versus organizations who actually want to use the assessment to improve parts of their organization? Do you have a lens on that, or do you tend to get sort of only one sort or the other?
When I started my consultancy, and I need to tell this story to put it into context, I thought that all the horrible customer centricity companies would flock towards us and ask for help to become better. And I don't know about your experience, but the reality is they don't. And those who are horrible will probably die being horrible. And the consultancy world serves organizations who already have the wish to become customer-centric in their DNA and now want to learn how to do it. So at the Customer Institute, we do not actually see a company that wants to hide behind a badge. That's the nice thing. We actually see organizations who say, oh, there is a Customer Institute assessment. It's 10 categories with 100 dimensions in total. You can gain 10 points each. So there's 1,000 points to gain during the whole assessment, which is a multi-week exercise. And then we get the verbatim from the employees and partners. We get evidence of what we deliver. We get scores. We get a whole sum of where we stand. This is what we need to build our next improvement plan on. So that's actually what we see, that the assessment, while it serves a badge at the end, if you exceed a certain point level, organizations want to use it as a platform to jump to the next level.
Well, that's fantastic. That's quite inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not just, sticking a label on something and saying, how can we help you improve your business?
Exactly. And I'm sure there are labels that are cheaper that you can buy for $17.95 off some website. We don't deal with that at all. We don't even have requests, which is wonderful. The organizations who look at what the Customer Institute is and research us and say, this makes really sense, those are the ones you want to have because they have customer centricity in their DNA, no matter what their capabilities are.
Yeah, and there's something to be said. There's a lot of talk about finding your ideal clients because they're the people you want to work with. And that's actually what you're doing. You're finding the clients, the organizations who actually want to be better, who want to change the status quo and who are up for growing and up for that that journey.
Yeah.
And aren't they the most exciting organizations and clients to work with? I think so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We had one client wanting to work with us, and they had such horrible internal processes that were based on leaders in different branches of the organization fighting it out, and the stronger wins, and the stronger fighter wins and gets his way on how things are done. And we looked at this and we said, sorry, there's just no way for you. You can improve customer centricity, making your whole employee world a battleground. So sorry, we won't work with you. But fortunately, in now 8 years of operation of Experience 5 and 2 years of the Customer Institute, that was the only example where we actually had to say, no, you don't fit the ecosystem we're building here.
Yeah, yeah. Very defining moment, I'll bet.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone we work on, be it public sector, the institutions, say we have a strong guidance from our government where we want to be successful with citizen centricity, help us to be a leader amongst our peers, a leader amongst the other government institutions. That's a good motivation. Organizations who say, I think we are customer centric, but still there's so much going wrong. Help us to fix these things. Organizations who come through a functional area. We have one large global player who said our customer support world needs improvement. We have 60 call centers around the world through which we provide service, about 15 different service providers and internal departments doing the 6,000 agents working in these centers. We don't feel good about how we present one joint experience to customers. And even though they call themselves customer support, they are customer experience dude and dudettes at heart, and we love to work with them.
Yeah. So there might be some people watching this interview that are either very early in their journey with customer centricity, or maybe not from the customer experience world at all. So how would you describe walking into a customer-centric company? What would a great customer-centric company look like and feel like to you?
First of all, let's say no customer-centric organization has arrived and sits on the throne of customer centricity and says, welcome world, come and be loved. Customer centricity is a journey that never ends. So if you walk into a customer-centric organization, no matter what the maturity level is, they will be busy. They will be busy improving. So I think the first and foremost characteristic of a customer-centric organization is the desire to continuously improve. If you smell that, you're at the right address.
Ah, excellent. And what about the balance between improving for customers and improving for operations or profit? I've worked for a lot of manufacturing businesses, and I've worked for organizations where there is a philosophy of continuous improvement, but it hasn't always meant improvement for the customer. So have you had that experience, and how do you bridge that, I guess? How do you take a thirst for continuous improvement in one part of the organization and say, how about we apply it over here?
That's our job, isn't it? We help organizations do the operational improvements in a way where they have a symbiotic relationship to the customer experience. So if you introduce robotic process automation to optimize your processes, and you do it to save just money and fire as many agents as you can from the department that currently provides the service, then you're missing an opportunity. If you introduce robotic process automation in order to free up resources that you urgently need in areas where you create value for the customer, then you do it in a right way and kill two birds with one stone. Poor bird, by the way. And this is how you do things right. Operational improvements, I mentioned this earlier, this is not about hugging trees. This is about becoming a better company. And a better company is one that operates efficiently with happy employees that use all that technology and process efficiency to have the right information, the right message, and the right time to interact with customers where they add value. And customers who say, I will never buy from a different organization because the experience I get here makes me happy. And since they continuously improve, as we said, that doesn't wear off. It continues to stay sharp, fresh, and satisfying.
Yeah. So what would you say about customer experience in a company like a Ryanair. So I recorded a podcast the other day where I was talking about great brands, and I wasn't talking about the brands you like. I'm talking about the brands you can count on for something. And I used Ryanair as a description of, well, you might not necessarily like them, but you know exactly what you're going to get. You can trust them to deliver this thing. So when we talk about a brand like Ryanair, who is known for a specific type of customer experience, perhaps, customers aren't always happy, do you think? Or is it just what makes me happy is not the same as what makes the person who flies on Ryanair happy? I mean, it's an interesting question, isn't it?
It is. It's an interesting case. You love it or you hate it. I love Ryanair. Because you can describe customer satisfaction in the simplest way in one equation. And that is the satisfaction equals reality minus expectation.
Perfect.
So if the reality of Ryanair is what it is, it's Ryanair's task to clearly communicate what to expect. For me, they have clearly done that. I flew to Gran Canaria with them from Germany. I booked the bare bone ticket for 2 pence and 2 fractions of a pence. And then I paid another few bucks for seat 2C. And I bought another extension to carry my carry-on suitcase with me on board. And all of this was still dirt cheap, even though people say, oh, I have to pay for everything on Ryanair. And with all this money, I basically had a business class flight experience for just few euros in total. So I was so excited how you can pay for what you'd like and build your reality to be exactly what you expected. And then they actually flew on time, which was a little bit beyond my expectations. So I walked away more than satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think this is what Ryanair's biggest challenge is. They need to make it very clear to those who fly Ryanair that they're serious about their rules. If you have not paid for your carry-on luggage, you will not carry it on. Right? We see all other airlines completely ignoring their own rules when it comes to boarding groups and other things. Ryanair doesn't. Ryanair is actually pretty Catholic about their rules.
Yeah.
And I as a German, I think that's perfect.
I didn't like to say.
So I was actually very, very happy with Ryanair, and you can be successful in the discount space. You do not need to create a rotten discount experience. You can create a great discount experience.
I think that's a great example that you've shown there, because often I think when we hear about examples of great customer experience, we talk about brand love and it's sort of like people talk about the Virgin and the Apple and all of those sorts of experiences. Now, I'm not an Apple fan, but it's interesting that that's the place all the examples go. And actually, there's some fantastic, simple experiences that are not expensive. It's not about being luxurious. It's about working at the coalface to, as you say, match the reality and the expectation. So you end up with customers that go, okay, I'm satisfied with that. That's a good job.
I agree.
I made a good decision. And that's what every customer is looking to do, isn't it? Yeah. They want to make a choice and then say, yes, that's a great decision. Well done, me.
Exactly. And I think that's an old learning that management theory has learned many decades ago. It's quite promising to survive at both ends of the spectrum, where's my hand? Here, both ends of the spectrum, either on the discount side or on the luxurious side, the premium side. The challenges are in the middle. If you try to be everyone's darling and doing everything to everybody, but for a medium price with a medium quality, you will probably fall into the cracks. But at the end of the spectrums, if you just define your offerings well and communicate expectations well, I think you can deliver great customer experiences on both ends.
Agree. So as a practitioner, but also a thought leader in customer experience, and particularly in the organizational space, what do you think are the most important things for the future of experience, whether it's customers, employees? What do you think are the guiding lights, the things we should really be focusing on?
Interesting question. If you look at what the challenges for organizations will be over the next 10 years, then we can see companies becoming more and more perfect in their operational flows. So if you do not organize your service delivery well, effective and efficient, you will probably lose out against all those who do. Of course, now you think about Amazon, order today and get your delivery 2 hours from now. It doesn't need to be a multi-billion organization to organize your processes well. So no matter what your company size is, you will be able to keep up. I ordered food during the current lockdown from a local restaurant the other day, and they had the opportunity for me to sign on to a multi-use packaging system that many restaurants share. And when I picked up my food, it was in Tupperware quality plastic packaging. Everything was perfectly in shape because it didn't get smashed. And after we enjoyed that, we had no garbage and we could wash the material and return it to any restaurant that participated in that system. So even as a small organization, you can be smart about your processes. That's number one. The second trend we see is that prices are going down. The willingness of consumers to pay for what they get is quite strained. So you need to be efficient and more efficient and even more efficient. So as you mentioned earlier, there's focus to save on the operational side. I already said, if you do that smartly, there will be a customer benefit coming along with that. If you don't do it smartly, you just cut away from what you deliver to your customers, and that will also make you fall into a crack. So we have the efficiency, we have the cost saving side, and then the other big trend that has been visible for years is the individualism of customers. So we are all not in the same situation when we make a purchase. We all do not want the same product. We all don't want it in the same color, and we don't all want it at the same time. So if as an organization you succeed in adapting to that and becoming agile in how you deliver and individualize your offering, that will be your third step to success. And as we build customer centricity with our clients around the globe, these are the areas we incorporate and we prep for, because without them, it will be very difficult to be successful.
Perfect. There we go. 3 steps. Three simple steps for your 2021.
Exactly. The golden 20s. This is your golden 20s.
Oh, that's nice. Or is it the roaring 20s?
Exactly.
Exactly. Any final words? So what are your hopes and dreams perhaps for 2021 as a final? What do you want to leave us with?
My hopes and dreams are that no organization in B2B, B2C, public sector, health services, or wherever you are, shy away from wanting to improve their customer centricity. We always speak about Amazon and Uber and Lufthansa and the big companies. And that might make you think that customer centricity is for the big guys. That would be so wrong. That would be so absolutely wrong. So whether you are the local pizza place or a medium-sized organization employing 500 people to deliver great custom-made ice cone making machinery, or you are a large organization, don't shy away from starting that journey, because it is a journey. And the sooner you start, the sooner you can get used to understanding where the summit is and what the phases are. Where's base camp 1? Where's base camp 2? What do I need? Who's going to be my Sherpa? Who's going to help me? And how do I get in the how do I accustom myself to continuous improvement? So that's my only and my biggest hope, that nobody gets shied away by all the great success stories we always present at conferences. Success and excellence happens at every level, every size and every maturity level.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today, Stefan. It's been great to talk to you. How can people get in touch with you?
They can contact us through the website experience5.de.
Fabulous. Thank you again. And all the best for 2021.
Same to you. Thanks for having me, Kim. All the best to you as well.